Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin Show for your Monday. No holiday for us out here. No sleep for the wicked. And yes, wanted to do a show today. Markets are open, so why not? And of course, it is Veterans Day out there. So happy Veterans Day to all of you who served our country. I actually wanted to do this as a trivia question many years ago, on how many different branches of the military are there. And most people are like, oh yeah, the Army, the Navy, Air Force, Marines. Yeah, well, you got two others in there. We have the Coast Guard, which I am very happy to have the Coast Guard out here because I have a coast near me. And then you also have Space Force, which is an interesting one. Maybe in the coming years that will be much more of a predominant position once we get Tesla launching into space and doing those types of things. So pretty excited for all your veterans today. You guys deserve big shout out and celebration. So congrats to you all for your day. Thank you all for your service. There's a lot of things and freedoms that I think many people take for granted. If it wasn't for the people fighting for this country, fighting for our rights and our freedoms, wouldn't be able to do a lot of stuff that we do. And some countries don't even have those freedoms. So thank you all so much. I'm curious, you guys tell me how many, in the United States, how many active, don't Google it. Just guess. Don't Google anything or go to Bing or try to do your watch, ask Alexa or anything like that. How many military veterans do we have in the United States today, right? Obviously, if they're deceased, they're part of the memorial side of things. But active living military veterans today, how many millions of people do you think we have in the United States that fit that bill? Just curious what you guys think. It's a pretty large number, right? It's definitely been coming down over the years. You kind of see the trajectory getting lower and lower and lower, which I guess is a good thing. Less people actually on the front line combat, and maybe we can scale back our military a little bit. But the number is, as I wait for you guys to type in, Tom Messina says 50,000, not even close. Not even remotely close. Big Eb's closer with 15 million. It's 17.9 million, or 6.8% of the U.S. population has been a veteran of the armed forces. So cheers to all of you. Salute you. Thank you very much. If I'm out this evening and I see someone in military garb, I'll buy you a dinner or buy you a drink. That's for sure. Yeah, no, it's what I looked at, 17.9 million in the U.S. and that number was 18 and now it's dropped just a little bit. But okay, let's I'm going to dive into listener questions because I did have quite a few questions that came in. I love my AI stuff for Veterans Day as well. Some of these graphics are really cool that came out. I want to start with this one. So I've got two questions that came in on specific topics. I'm going to dive into that one today. Ben asked me, says, do you think Tesla will hit all-time highs this year? This is a tricky one. If you really look at Tesla's trajectory, there's very few things at this present moment that rival it. MicroStrategy, which of course we have a question on MicroStrategy as well. But here's your chart of Tesla. And I'll zoom out here in just a second so we can see the all-time highs. But for many reasons, which I don't need to recant because you guys all know, you've seen me. Hey, Shinobi, good to see you, Brian. You've heard me talk about this repeatedly, so there's no real point in me going into further on it. But just my belief that Tesla is going to continue its move to the upside, not because of its car company exclusively, because of energy and AI and robots and so many other business ventures. Now, all-time highs was a question from Ben. So let me break this down in a weekly time frame so we can see those previous highs. I believe it was 440. Let me get a line right across that high there so I can make sure I get the right number. It should be, that was like 407 is what it's saying, but I think it actually is higher than that. Bear with me as I got to zoom in here and get that line perfectly drawn on there so I get the right number. There we go. Yeah, 414. So 414 is your all-time high for Tesla's chart on this bad boy. And here we are sitting at 353 right now. Is it possible to get there by the end of the year? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I do personally think it's getting a little bit overheated. I think it's getting a little too much euphoria from the Trump victory and just Musk's association with that. From current levels to get to that all-time high, let's go to there. You're talking about another 18%. So an 18% move up by the end of the year, I don't think anyone here would say that that's unreasonable. I think that probably would seem logical the way that this thing has been moving. So let me adjust these lines just to fit. So there we go. That's your further gain by the end of the year to make it to all-time highs. So based off of this, Ben, and I'd like to get your feedback as well, viewers. Based off of this, I don't think that anyone could say that it's unreasonable for Bitcoin to get to those highs. I mean, especially when you consider that we have rallied from this low point here, which was October 23rd, to our close today. You're up 65% in 13 bars. So sure, I absolutely think that Tesla could get to $414.50 by the end of the year. Now, again, I think a lot of this is riding on the heels of hopium. Expectations, right? A lot of times when we take stocks side by side and you say this is a value stock or this is a growth stock, the play for Tesla is certainly not value, right? This is not a value play. This is growth. This is looking at, does this Trump appointment of Elon Musk as the Department of Government Efficiency guy, plus all the potential, favoritism for Tesla and the other companies coming out, maybe favorable rulings for AI. My guess is the big piece to drop will be Trump pressuring Department of Transportation and the other regulatory agencies to give Tesla the full green light as the exclusive at this point for driverless vehicles mass market around the United States. That would give them a monstrous competitive advantage and further bolster their price. But in my opinion, it's all expectations at this point. Fundamentally, I don't believe that their business has changed so much that it warrants this monstrous move. From that low we saw to the 100 or to its all-time highs, that'd be a 95% move in 46 days. Pretty incredible. I think many people here are wow, that's not possible. Well, it is, especially when you look at its current trajectory. So Ben, who asked this question, do I think Tesla would hit all-time highs this year? I do. I do. And the question right now is, does the momentum and this kind of just crazy euphoria in the marketplace at this present moment persist? And how much longer does it persist for? So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how long it will go for. I do think you'll see this market rally. I do think there's going to be a pullback. You've got to take some profit on this eventually. But I think that the overall trajectory, if you take out the colossal run, what's been happening with Tesla, it's turned that corner. Right? Look at the chart pattern here. It was drifting lower and lower and lower. Then all of a sudden we put a bottom in, started to make new highs, broke out with this most recent move. And to me, this is just saying higher prices to the upside. So, yeah, John says, nothing seems to have surprised me lately. That's the beauty of markets. The markets, I think the longer that you do it, the less you are shocked or you're surprised by what you see. You kind of just go, wow, yeah, I didn't see that one coming, but here we are. So, yeah, S&P 500, 6,000. Yeah, right, Oliver? And then some. Let's see. I watched the Tesla private factory tour that James has posted on his channel. What a cool place. Robotics, AI, automation, taking what Tesla is pioneering and using it at their factories to make it better. Right now, there's a human element to it, but in the future, we'll probably see these things just mass-produced by robots, just cranking them out. So, yes, I'm bullish on Tesla. I think I saw Big Eb said there. Big Eb said was hoping for a big pullback. Yeah, me too. And I'm still I'm kicking myself for not holding it. I mean, you guys know back in I don't remember when that was. It's been so long ago. I think it was back here in April this year. I had a bunch of puts. I sold a bunch of puts and I got exercised and I sold the 165 calls on those, thinking that we would slowly drift up, and all of a sudden in 2 days, just boom, jumped up. Now I'm just kicking myself for that one. Obviously, it was a winning trade, which was great, but man, I got it at 165, and here we are at 350. I shoulda, coulda, woulda, my friends. But yeah, I still am bullish on Tesla, even at the 350 price tag. I'm not going to jump into it now. I'll wait for a pullback on it to some extent and sell some puts next time this guy has a little bit of panic in the valuation of Tesla. And Elon Musk, his prospect for being the world's first trillionaire is getting much and much better today. Let's see, what else do I got here? Bitcoin, did I say Tesla? Both. I think we'll see pullback of Bitcoin soon. We'll get to that in just a second on the Bitcoin thing. There's a couple of really interesting pieces driving that one up. Chat disconnected. So apparently I got disconnected there. Sorry, guys. I didn't see any comments from you, but everything looks fine on my end. Really not sure what is going on with my streams lately. Something's a mess. Back here, let me get to that in just a minute. I got to get a couple other topics here before I dive into that one. Would Elon not have to exit his Tesla ownership to have an actual position in the cabinet? No, I don't believe he'd have to exit his position. It'd have to be disclosed, and there may be restrictions put on what he can do with his shares. But I don't think you have to exit his position. I mean, if you're Elon Musk, you're like, I'm not exiting my position. That's my bread and butter. So I don't think that would happen. If you're a president, maybe. But I don't think as someone gets appointed there, I don't think that he would have to give up his shares. I'll look into that. That's a great question. But I think we'd all agree that if Elon Musk was forced to give up his shares in Tesla, he'd probably decline the job. Probably. I mean, I think he certainly would. Yeah, Oliver, YouTube's been acting weird for me over the past couple of days. Everything's been streaming fine. I moved over to my fiber connection, and it looks great here, but my Outlook, the studio is telling me that I have a bandwidth issue, which shouldn't be. I'm checking my stream here, and it looks pretty good right now. All right, next question. Oh, I didn't even get to share my good graphic with you. Bummer. This was the graphic for Tesla. And the reason I chose this one is I initially said Tesla to the moon because its price trajectory is going to the moon. But let's be honest, Tesla has no interest in going to the moon. Tesla to Mars. So I said Tesla to Mars. And it came up with this really cool graphic. I love the fact it's got the Tesla there on Mars, but it also has the solar or wind power turbines in the background, and just kind of a cool futuristic picture. Plus, I really like the style of this Tesla. It's like almost like a cross between a Mustang and the new Tesla Model S. Really cool. All right, next question was from Heather. I bought MicroStrategy back in August, and I have more than doubled my account. Would you sell? This kind of ties into another question that I got, which I didn't give a chance to put into the slides, which was, do you adjust your stop loss strategies? And personally, I don't adjust my stop loss strategies for a specific market. At this point, you just go by your ATR, your whatever percentage you choose, at least in my opinion, whatever percentage you choose of your ATR, and use that as your stop loss. Now, some people might be using moving averages. Some people might be using mechanical stops where you move it up below the previous day's low. Either way is up to you. I mean, you all have to figure out what strategies you like to do. I generally go below swing lows as my stop loss points for that. So let's go look at MicroStrategy. So if you look at MicroStrategy, far outperforming the rate of return on Bitcoin. I'll bring up both of those here in just a second. But on the MicroStrategy gains today, you're up 25.73% today. And it's up another 2.8% in the after hours. So we are just soaring on MicroStrategy. I'll bring up the weekly time frame so we can see what it looks like all time. There you go. So clearly not all-time highs quite yet. Its all-time high goes back into, sorry, I have to zoom in and out here. I hate when I zoom in and out for you guys, but I got to do it. All-time high for MicroStrategy goes back into 2000, which of course is going to be split adjusted. Interesting. And that is showing on MicroStrategy as being a high of $333. So apparently we are officially above that. Didn't look like it on this chart I had here, but we are now officially above that. No, we can't be. What's going on here? Yeah, it's the weekly. Then we go to the daily. Okay, there we go. My line is throwing me off. That's what it was. So at 349, you're at all-time highs on MicroStrategy. According to Bloomberg, so Bloomberg wrote an article that said if you're buying MicroStrategy, you're paying a 3x premium to be buying Bitcoin, which I thought was a really interesting piece. Personally, I think if you want to be involved in the Bitcoin rally, buy Bitcoin. As I mentioned before, buy Bitcoin, put it on cold storage, and put it in a hardware wallet somewhere where you keep the private keys, take it off the exchanges, and just sit on it for a while. I think that's the real way to play it, right? Get a piece of the actual asset that everyone is fighting over. Today, actually, between October 31st and November 11th, so a little 11-day window, MicroStrategy bought another $2.03 billion worth of Bitcoin. I believe right now they have, numbers off the top of my head, 274,420 Bitcoin. Conveniently, 420 Bitcoin at the end. But you have a monumental size account here for MicroStrategy. And I believe a lot of people are using this as a way to play Bitcoin as opposed to buy into something like BITO or these Bitcoin futures ETFs, Bitcoin spot ETFs. So for me, Heather, if you're asking me where I would get out of MicroStrategy, I guess, I can't answer that question because I'm not a financial advisor. If it was my account and I was holding MicroStrategy, the real question is, what was my objective? Was I going for short-term gains on it? Then you dump it because you've achieved really significant short-term gains. If you are looking longer term, as I am, and thinking that Bitcoin could get to 250,000, let me bring up, I can't really do that on this chart here. Let me do an overlay. It's 24 hours. I'll have to do BITO. So let me do BITO here. I'll add on BITO. Yeah, that's not going to look great. No, so this isn't going to work for me the way I wanted it to do. But if I add on BITO today, that means I'm expecting significant price improvement in the valuations of Bitcoin, which I do. Now, does that mean if I think that Bitcoin's going to go from 70,000, which was your breakout point on Bitcoin, to 250,000, that's 4 times. So based off that, do I see MicroStrategy getting to 1,200? Which would seem insane, right? It just seems like it's just way too big of a move. Well, from current price action to get to 1,200, you would be looking at a gain of roughly 253%. I don't think that that's unreasonable. I really don't think that that's that unreasonable given the price of Bitcoin expectations, at least my expectations of what Bitcoin might do. Everyone here is going to have different opinions of it. I've been pretty transparent. I mentioned a while back 100,000 by the end of the year, and I think 250,000 by next year. And gosh, the way that we're going with Bitcoin, we might be at 90,000 by the end of the day. What are we at now? We're at 87,735, but we hit intraday 89,140 on the futures. I mean, this is just fantastic. Great news for all my Bitcoin friends in the audience in crypto. I know Brian, I'm hoping you're not short. I know Brian's bullish on crypto overall, and he does a lot of altcoins and small coins. Brian says, if you're in the UK and you want to have exposure to Bitcoin in your pension, the best way would be to put a fund into that, put in a fund that holds MicroStrategy through spot ETF. Yep. Okay. So you don't have spot ETF. Spot ETF is not approved by UK pensions yet. That's just silly. So yeah, and I think, Brian, that's what a lot of people are doing, is a lot of people are, for a proxy, I don't maybe want to open up a crypto account. I don't want to go to Coinbase, Kraken, Binance. I'm uncomfortable there, but I do know the stock market. And everyone's talking Michael Saylor Bitcoin. I'll go and buy MicroStrategy. So that to me makes sense as a proxy. Now, does the valuation make sense? If Bloomberg is right, and I want to go back and read that article, if Bloomberg is right that the premium you're paying for Bitcoin by buying MicroStrategy is about 3x, that seems out of line to me. That seems like there'll be a pullback and a return back to normal valuations. That said, my thoughts for MicroStrategy, so I can answer Heather's question here, is if I'm of the opinion that Bitcoin is going to continue to rally through, let's say, November of next year, where I think it will top out around $250,000, then I would just leave it. I would leave it, my money in the MicroStrategy, and I would let it take its course. Because, for example, I'm not selling my Bitcoin. I will not sell one Bitcoin until maybe September or October of next year. And only reason would be is if all of a sudden things started to slow down and then started to crash from there. Because I think that this time may be different. Every 4-year cycle has had that last year a parabolic move. Every 4-year cycle. The first year of that new cycle has been down 70 to 80%, and I'm just going off of historical precedent. I do believe this time is different because of adoption, because of politics, because of regulation. I think that's going to make this time different, but I will be ready to pull the trigger if I need to, right around September 1st. So I'm going to move my assets from my ledger to the exchange just in case, and if the markets tell me I got to dump it, I'll dump it, and hopefully if I get out of it, markets will fall 70 to 80%, and I can buy back in at a much, much lower price. Yeah, Shinobi and I, we're in the same boat, Brian. Long and strong. So, Heather, anytime you buy something, ultimately, it's what was your plan initially. And again, if you're just looking for a quick scalp, make a quick buck here and there, then yeah, I mean, you're up 25% today. You should love that. I agree with some of the comments here from earlier, which are some of these moves are going to pull back. I think Margaret asked there, well, let me make sure I get their props in here. Someone asked, was this election driven? I thought that was Margaret, but do I think it's election driven? Absolutely. I don't think it's necessarily, Margaret said, is this election driven? I think this is expectations of delivery on the of the election, right? We talked about Trump and his promises. If Trump is pro-Bitcoin and takes those 200,000+ Bitcoin from the Marshal Service and puts it at the Treasury Department, MicroStrategy has 274 or 279,000 Bitcoin. that puts them in a huge power position as one of the largest holders of Bitcoin in the world. It would be technically they're number 3 right now, behind Satoshi Nakamoto, behind BlackRock, and now it is MicroStrategy. And buying another 77,000 Bitcoin today, their holding is huge. I mean, it's just a very, very big position. So there you go, Heather. I don't know if I really answered your question. It's hard because for me, if I owned it, I'd want to just keep holding it. If you are shorter term and you're more active trading, then you got to figure out what your stop loss valuation is. But if you get 25% gain on anything in a day, I'm calling that a good day. Let's see. I think that Elon and Donald will come to blows at some point with Mr. Trump ending the EV mandate one day. Who knows? One thing I've seen just from Trump in his previous administration is he does flip-flop. So he'll say one thing and then a couple days later things might change. And that could be for better or for worse. I'm optimistic, fingers crossed, that the promises by Trump will be kept. If those are kept, then I have no problem standing behind my forecast of 250. I think that'd be maybe even lowballing it, because now you have a really positive administration. And more importantly, if you have the House of Representatives and you have the Senate, and I showed you a graphic that showed that you have a majority of the people in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, majority are pro-crypto, and then you have the Republican-controlled anyway, the ability to pass laws and clarity to the code, to the SEC rules and everything becomes much, much greater. So I look at this, if you're a crypto person, as probably the greatest thing that could have happened to crypto. Not only a pro-cabinet, House of Representatives and Senate, but also a president, and then a president that is very good at doing things that will benefit him. So we know he's been pro-Bitcoin. We know he also has World Liberty Financial, which is his own cryptocurrency. So this is a great question that came in here from, one second. Man, you guys are talking today. Q asked if I can look at JP Morgan. I'll look at that in just a second. Margaret says, and the meme coins are benefiting also. Right, so you've got, I break it down to 3 categories. You've got Bitcoin, which is the coin. Altcoins, which is literally anything other than Bitcoin. And then you have meme coins, or shit coins, what they're called. Meme coins are just a joke. Will they ride this wave of popularity? Absolutely. Speculators abound. They jump on them all the time. And most of these meme coins ultimately down the road will go to zero. But you're having big jumps up. The big regret I have, at least over the past 2 weeks, has been that I didn't buy Dogecoin. You guys know I think Dogecoin's a joke. I don't like Dogecoin. I think it's useless. I think it's a joke. However, knowing that, or at least anticipating from what I was reading, that Trump was going to win this and appoint Elon Musk as the Doge, Department of Government Efficiency, you know that meme coin was going to take a jump. And I just so busy, I didn't pull that trigger, and I'm kicking myself for it, because you look at what Doge has done. Let me bring up Doge for you. It's up 17% today. I mean, look at that rally. You're going to go just from the election day. Let's go back to the election, the day that Trump won. Just from that point alone, 93% returns. Now, if you went in a couple weeks before that, anticipating it, you're talking 218%. And I'm bummed I didn't jump on it, because this was my idea. I was going to do this, but I just got sidetracked to so many other things. BFF, best friend forever. Best friend forever strategy. Let's see. Big F says Section 1043 of the tax code would allow Elon Musk to defer all capital gains on his divestiture of capital interest due to his role in the government. Oh, interesting. All right, I'll have to dig deeper into that one. What else I got here? Shinobi says, not all of the meme coins. Well, of course, not everything. We can never be kind of totalitarian here and say everything will benefit. But the vast majority of this market's surging. I mean, for example, let's just look at what happened out there today. This is just my watch list of crypto. And you can see from the top down, you're looking at, Avalanche, 7% gains. Things are rolling over a little bit. But I'll go to the negative side. And look, you've got Hex. This is a meme coin. This is a scam. I mean, this is the ultimate garbage coin. You've got XMR down 2.43%. And again, you look at XMR, This is a privacy coin, guys. This is something I do believe the government will be going after. They're going to go after privacy coins. All right, they'll allow Bitcoin because it's transparent. You can see everything. You get into privacy coins like Zcash or maybe even parts of Dash and even Litecoin. There's problems there potentially. So yeah, not everything is going to rally. Been great for a lot of the holdings that I have had. I mean, I've seen a 33% increase in my portfolio since last Tuesday. So I'll take a 33 gain and on a portfolio. And I'm not talking a small amount, like for $5,000 portfolio. We're talking a pretty substantial portfolio, having 33% overall gains. And things like Polkadot have done really well. BNB's done really well. You name it, across the board, we've seen this big surge. So great. Yeah, Doge is the OG meme coin. I mean, Doge is literally the OG original meme. How are the altcoins and meme coins trading volume lately? It's a great question, Margaret. And again, it has to go to how these markets are constructed. Depending on what exchange you use, you could ask that question. How is its volume, right? Because every exchange has different volumes. So some of the meme coins might not be as active on the US, whereas you go to Binance.com, they might be very active there. But I would assume that the volume overall for all of crypto has been surging significantly. So that was my my MicroStrategy piece out there. But ultimately this all ties back into digital assets, and of course with Bitcoin leading the way, all-time highs and just ripping, most of the other stuff is going to follow suit there and rally with it. Obviously, we saw some real nice moves up in Ethereum. That was great. That's my second largest holding. Just since election day, going back to Tuesday to where we are today, Ethereum's up a whopping 37%. Love it, right? Great when that's your second largest holding. So, okay, others are doing well. Yeah, Shiba Inu. I am an anti-Shiba Inu. Shiba Inu. This is not right. Let's go to SHIB. Yeah, I'm anti-Shiba Inu, Brian. I'm a hater. I'm absolutely a hater of Shiba Inu. I don't like the way that it was constructed. I don't like the scam that was done when they dumped it in Vitalik's wallet and then spammed the market saying that Vitalik was buying it. This to me is just the definition of fraud. But yes, been a great move. And since the election day, Shiba Inu up 59.9%. So great opportunity for these to continue. Now the question that I saw, I think Lisa, you sent this one in, was, missed opportunity. What can we do about it going forward? How would you jump on Bitcoin at this point? That's a very difficult question because you look at the price charts of Bitcoin, and I'll just, let's go spot market. Let me get some of my lines off of here. Actually, I'm going to keep those lines there. I'll take this one off. I want to keep that one there too. Damn, I'm going to leave all these lines here. If you look at this, we've had the breakout. We clearly had that breakout above 73,974. And now, we've already moved, 13,000, 14,000 per Bitcoin in just a few days on that breakout. Ideally, what would happen is you're going to get a pullback here. And the question is, does it come all the way back down to the 73,000, we call it 74,000 mark, and retest that, right? Typically what happens on breakouts is you get the big move up, people get all excited, and then it'll come drifting back down and retest a previous breakout level. I'll be honest, I personally just don't think you're going to see that big of a correction. Because right now, many of you are probably in that camp that everybody is talking about three things: Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, and Tesla. And, I get more questions now than ever. I feel like this show is going to switch to a crypto show because so many people, are asking me about Bitcoin. That's usually when things turn. And I'll admit, I'm perplexed, I'm torn, because my market experience tells me you're going to see a correction here. You're going to see this pullback. But looking at all the factors driving it, this is not the same as a stock. It has different fundamental drivers with its supply and demand creation and self-custody. All the shares we have of stocks are sitting on exchanges or the DTCC, and are all part of the general supply and liquidity. So you could buy and sell everybody's shares. Just a matter of your institution lending them out. With crypto, it doesn't work that way. The Bitcoin I have is taken out of the equation. And so now when when Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy went to buy this 70,000 Bitcoin over the last 11 days, who they buying it from? They didn't buy mine because mine's sitting right here on my device. Actually, the private keys are. So they're buying from an ever-shrinking pool, and I think that makes this a very different asset class. So I be honest, I don't think you're going to see a substantial pullback. Technical analysis would tell me, yes, come into 74. I don't see it. I think there's just too many factors of adoption coming. I think right now what you're going to get is institutional purchases because the future, next year, it looks like the doorway will be opening to much more positive business ownership, bank ownership, institutional ownership, and utilization of digital assets. And not just Bitcoin, right? If we look at Trump, he said Bitcoin, 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 but the fact that he has a DeFi exchange means most likely we're going to see favorable rulings, because why would he push the SEC to crack down on DeFi marketplaces when he owns one of them, or at least a large portion of that company? So it's a win-win-win for Trump if he passes legislation that says let DeFi go, and maybe even crack down on his competitors through different rules or whatever. Now, granted, we haven't even seen World Liberty Financial. I have a different take on the validity of WTFI, or World Liberty Financial's coin, which is on the Ethereum blockchain. But all in all, it's an extremely great time. And I've been saying this for a while. I feel like I'm finally getting some redemption. I know a lot of people are like, Merlin, Bitcoin's not going anywhere. I said, I never said it was until after the halving, right? 6 months after the halving, it usually goes sideways to slightly down, which it did. And all of a sudden, I mean, it's like textbook right now. And I'm kind of rubbing my hands together, because if it does follow the pattern that it's done 4 times already, then the engine is just fired on the rocket to the upside. Let it go. Let it go. Woo! Joe says, hi, bro. Any chance you could rattle someone's cage over OTA? For some reason, my focus class with you has been dropped from the calendar and no one's getting back to me, and why? My focus class? Yeah, I can see what I can do there. I'm not sure why you would get dropped. Focus is focused. All right, your short but sweet answer on crypto is very helpful. Oh, no problem. Well, Margaret, I like that you asked those questions. And you know what? To help the head spin, always just slow it down and say, hey, could you explain that? Can you talk about that? I definitely don't want to make the show about crypto. It's about markets overall. And when we look at the opening of a watch, I always like to use that analogy, right? You guys have heard me talk about this many times. If you open up an old watch, there's all these different pieces. And I think what's happened is a new piece has been put in there. And that piece is digital assets. And we're starting to see relationships form between the equity markets and the Forex markets, depending on which part of it you're trading. And I think that opens the door to even more opportunity for all of us. So I got to say, I'm pretty excited about it. You too, Thomasina. Thank you very much. Bybit, also Bybit, but I can't use that in the UK now. Peter Lynch said that you should always be fully invested because big gains come quickly and unexpectedly many times, but the Bitcoin chart proves that is correct. Yeah, not only that, Margaret, but again, patterns, right? You could go back and do a study on this program and go back to the beginning of the year and spelled everything out. I mean, really, for the last 2 years, I got to say, we've been pretty on with what Bitcoin's trajectory has done. The only thing that I didn't get right was on Bitcoin was this big rally here in 2003. Typically, it doesn't go into the halving, which is this vertical line right here on the left. Typically, Bitcoin does not go into the halving near all-time highs. It goes into halving like usually back here as it's slowly going up. So this was the only piece I didn't get right, but I got the second half after the halving. It drifted sideways to lower. Then the breakout happened, and now we're off to the races. So hopefully this will continue. Of course, I own a lot of different cryptos. I could make a whole list of here the ones I have, but it's even stuff like this. Crypto.com. Like, I don't like Crypto.com. I'm not a fan. Right, but I have money sitting there. I had to buy a bunch of CRO tokens so that I could get a higher yield on my Bitcoin. I mean, just look what CRO has done since the election day, 189%. So, things jump for a variety of different reasons. In this case, this is why you spread your portfolio out. If I had to tell you to buy one crypto, you buy Bitcoin. It's just because it's so simple to understand. Architecturally, mathematically, it's easy. Some of the other ones like Ethereum or Binance, you have very different metrics and operating systems and algorithms, a little bit more complex. So I would start with Bitcoin and as you go, add other pieces to it. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy what some of these rates of return are over the last 24 hours. I'm just seeing Cronus up 70%. I mean, Render, which I've also been very bullish on, you're up 15% on that one just today alone. So yeah, when it happens in crypto, very different. I mean, we don't see days like this in the market, right? We do not see 70% gains for assets with regularity, 15%, 16%. I mean, these aren't just the rare, penny stocks either. These are like big projects or, a lot of money in it. Oh, even EOS. Yeah, all my EOS is gone. All my EOS is gone, Brian. I had my EOS over at Celsius, so all my EOS disappeared, which is really unfortunate. I bought some EOS back in 2017. I don't even know if this chart will go back that far. Yeah, I won't even go. Oh, yeah. Back in 2017, and it was lower than this. It was definitely lower. Anyway. What's the plan for going back in time and buying more? Yeah, right. I wish. It's funny when if you think about it, if you just had a $100 bill, even a $10 bill worth of Bitcoin in 2009, you'd be a multimillionaire off of $10. Just insane. It was trading at a fraction of a penny. It was like a 0.00009, I think, back in 2009. Insane. And it's twofold my euphoria here, or this crypto euphoria, but really for me, Bitcoin. First and foremost, it's obviously the financial gains and potential upside that I'm looking to capitalize on. But the second one is what it represents. And it represents getting away from the traditional financial system. Be your own bank. That was really the slogan of Bitcoin early on, was just be your own bank. Bitcoin allows you to do that. And then that opened the doorway to just the full digital revolution, which we've barely just begun. So exciting stuff. Let's see. Let's see if that was due to the ETFs, Merlin, not something anyone could predict it. Even yes, Cardano is a good one as well. So there's rumor that Charles Hoskinson would be on the Presidential Advisory Committee. So Charles Hoskinson, which is one of the founders of Ethereum, he's also the guy that created Cardano, which is this bad boy here. Let's go back to the daily. That's done very well. But again, I do think that you'll see a pullback here in crypto. Maybe not massive, but definitely a little bit of a breather for crypto. John G says, was there an exchange way back? Sure. Yeah. The first one that I got involved with was Coinbase. And when I got involved with Coinbase, they just had Bitcoin, and then they switched quickly to Ethereum and Litecoin. So they had Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. But before that, you had one called Mt. Gox, which here's a funny one for you guys. I'm sure many of you have heard of Mt. Gox. Mt. Gox is the one they had 844,000 Bitcoin stolen out of Mt. Gox. At one point, they were the largest. I think something like 39% of all crypto traffic went through Mt. Gox. That's incredible. And then they got hacked. And they lost it all. Does anybody here know what Mt. Gox stands for? It cracks me up because you think that Mt. Gox started as an exchange. It didn't. Mt. Gox started as something else. It started off as a swap site. And I'm just waiting to see if anybody here types in what Mt. Gox stands for. You're going to laugh when you hear this, right? So for all you nerds that are tech friends, that are tech people that like crypto, Mt. Gox stands for Magic the Gathering Online Exchange. So it was a website where people could exchange the Magic the Gathering playing cards and swap. It was like a marketplace to buy and sell those cards, and Mt. Gox just turned into crypto. I guess people were trying to pay with Bitcoin and crypto, and it just turned into an exchange. So here you have a company that really was an exchange site for playing cards, and then all of a sudden they became the biggest exchange for crypto in the world, and now they hacked, they disappeared. So yes, there was some exchanges back then. But really like 2011 is when you got your first real exchange. Other than that, it would be like a bulletin board where I'd be like post, hey, I'd like to sell some Bitcoin. Anybody want to buy it? That's how it was done. You look at the pizza day. It was an interesting one. The guy literally got a pizza, 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas. Today, that's a $70 million pizza. 2 pizzas for $70 million. Crazy. No, it's the Gathering. Warcraft. Hey, Jim, Very similar. I like Warcraft better. Wizards of the Coast, a Seattle company. There you go. Yep. I have a neighbor who plays Magic the Gathering, and that's his sole job. Guy makes $300,000 a year playing a game. It just drives me nuts. Anyway, I'm going off. So let's see. Were there any last comments on that one? You won't hear the crypto haters on TV during this meteoric rise, such as Warren Buffett. You will. You'll hear. I mean, Jamie Dimon's kind of backed off and not talking about it because I think he realizes what a hypocrite he is by using Avalanche and Ethereum as their blockchain. But I got into crypto early 2020. Thanks, dude. No problem, Big Ab. That's I'm hoping that at a minimum I've opened people's eyes to what it is, right, and understand that it's not a scam. There are a lot of scams, without a doubt. I mean, out of 2.4 million projects, I'd say that 90% of them are flat out scams. Another 9% are probably just garbage that's going to go nowhere, which means you've got like 1% of the projects are actually legitimate. Well, that's still, 1% of 2.4 million is 24,000 projects. There's a lot of stuff that's legit. And when you see companies adopting it and utilizing these networks, like Apple using Render for their headsets and augmented reality, or Amazon using Avalanche's chain for logistics, and same thing with JP Morgan using Avalanche and Ethereum for their blockchain, Onyx, which is now called, I had to write this name down because it switched on me. Such a weird name too. Connexus, that's the JP Morgan blockchain. It just echoes the legitimacy of crypto and digital assets. So why not buy into it and get it on the ground floor? Yeah, Peter Schiff will never stop. John G says, two guys met in a parking lot of the Kingdom and came up, the Magic the Gathering game. So let me run through our top 7 markets here, and just so I can get that out of the way. Obviously, Bitcoin is the monster gainer today, but we did have some, there's more talk about demand woes in China. And that has caused this to break. I think we're still focusing on these lower levels. We've got multiple zones drawn on this crude oil chart. I got too many horizontal lines on here. But really kind of that big line in the sand here is 63, 64 for crude oil futures. The good news for anybody who's bullish on oil is, we've been making this slightly higher lows for the better part of 2.5 months now. Now, the last 2 days have been pretty brutal, but, I wouldn't be too worried unless we get below $65 on this one. So there we go. Gold, because we had such a risk-on move, right? Everyone just piling into risk assets. Commodities taking a little bit of a hit. That's fine. You look at right where gold is right now. Great pullback for anybody who's looking to buy into this gold run. 2,618 is right that low point that we bounced off of last time. So we had a rally base and then a rally, which broke out right above 2,618. Retested it and rocketed up, and now we're coming back down. Now, certainly there's been weakness over the past couple of weeks in gold. Does that mean it's done? I don't think so. I don't think the rally is overall done. Would like to see it stop here. Other than that, 2,285 would be where I'd love to buy back in, but that's $400 lower, and I doubt we'll get that low on gold anytime soon. So for the long haul, those wanting to buy long gold, we'll be selling some puts maybe at the money, right? If you think it's going to bounce here. So that was down 2.86% today. NASDAQ, call it unchanged. We've had 2 sessions in a row where the beginning and end of the day are almost the same, right? That is not a real good sign. I mean, yes, it's holding the move, which is great. But remember, a lot of this was created because of just a couple companies. So I'm curious to see if it does start to roll over. I'll put a line on here at a price point where I'd be interested in going short the NASDAQ. So let me just zoom in here. Let's put a horizontal line right across those lows for the past 2 sessions, which means I'm looking at a break below 21,121. If we open up tomorrow's session and then start to drift below that, which it could easily happen, you might have a good short opportunity on the NASDAQ. It's a little profit taking comes back in. Actually, hold on. Let me change that number. It's got to be below the low here, which is 21,100, right? 21,100 on your triple Qs or NASDAQ 100. 10-year. Our new session, nothing really happening, right? So we just rolled over. But we're slightly up today. Right now, the yield on that 10-year is 4.335%. S&P, which is your 4th place finisher, slightly up. But notice it feels like the momentum is slowed down. You had that real big move up. Now, all of a sudden, it's hesitating. Some people call this the vomit comet. For anybody here who has learned or taken that airplane, the vomit comet is where pilots, astronauts test for weightlessness. So you get this really incredible steep move up, then they cut the engines, and then all of a sudden you kind of float and go weightless. I will say if we break the low of the day on the S&P 500, which is 6,013, if we get down below that, you might have a real nice sell-off here as people are going to take a little bit of profit. I mean, we've had a run in the S&P 500 that just is way out of the ordinary. If you go back from these lows on Monday of last week to where we closed at today, 5.37%. So that's a pretty hefty run in just 5 days. So we'll see if we get a correction there. Dollar index. Yeah, I saw Big Ebs type in a chat. He says a strong dollar killing oil and gold. Absolutely. And that trend looks like it's going to keep on going. All right, we did break out above that 105 mark. Now the question is, where are we headed? I have this zone much higher up, but I think there's obviously a higher probability that we'll stall earlier than that, which are probably going to be somewhere right around here, which is 105.90. So, you look at the David Warner kind of philosophy of whole numbers, I'd look at 106. If we get to that 106 mark, then that's where I think we'll probably go to, and I would expect there to be a little bit of a sell-off at 106, but that's just above us, right? We could get there by the end of the week. Further upside movement in that dollar does crush oil, it does crush gold and silver and other commodities priced in dollars. That's your third place, was the 10-year. Second place was the Russell 2000. We had a beautiful breakout. We talked about this ascending triangle. There's your breakout. I mentioned that I felt that the Russell would be the biggest beneficiary of lower lower interest rates. So as the short end of that yield curve gets yanked down, that brings in more likelihood of M&A, that more likelihood of R&D, companies spending, and that just means growth for small caps. And we've seen a really big run. Today you're up 1.5% for the Russell 2000, but from those lows to where we peaked at or closed at today, the Russell in the last 6 sessions is up 11.38%. Fantastic. And then the Big Daddy. There's your Bitcoin futures chart. Again, you got the breakout that happened here when we broke above the all-time highs at 74,415, and it just really has not looked back since. And I'm curious how strong, how long this momentum will go. All in all, I'm feeling pretty optimistic on it right now. I think you'll see a pullback and then just continue to move on upwards. The green light and door has been open for institutional adoption of Bitcoin, particularly if Trump does follow through with his words, which I hope he does, because if he does, then my 250 target becomes a very real reality. All right, economic calendar and announcements. Where did I have those? Boom. Nothing really today that's noteworthy from the economic perspective. Tomorrow it does get a little better. You can see we've got FOMC members all over the place speaking. You have inflation expectations from the Cleveland Fed. You've got Waller, Barkin, and Kashkari speaking. You also have Harker and Barkin later on in the day. So you have like 5 different FOMC members speaking tomorrow. So a busy day from that perspective. Otherwise, not really any big stats other than the NFIB Small Business Index. And I don't remember the earnings calendar. If I remember from Monday Morning Must Knows, there wasn't a lot going on this week. There were a couple of big names. I'll bring them up for you, but nothing like Apple's or Amazon's or anything like that. You have 694 companies reporting tomorrow. And here are the big ones. Oh, yeah, Home Depot. How could I forget that? So you got Home Depot, AstraZeneca, Shopify, Spotify, and Suncor Energy, Occidental Petroleum, just to name a few. So there you go. All right, that's going to do it for me for today. Thank you for the questions, and thank you for those who sent in those questions, which was Heather asking about MicroStrategy, Ben about Tesla. If you got something you want me to dive into, let me know. Disney is Thursday, I believe, Ben. Home Depot is tomorrow. Let me make sure. Disney is either Wednesday or Thursday. I believe it was Thursday. Yeah, Disney's Thursday with Applied Materials. But yep, that's the other big names. Other than that, not a lot going on. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully your portfolios are doing really well. I know it's been this last couple weeks has made me smiling from ear to ear. So I hope it did for you as well. If you have something you want me to cover on tomorrow's show, let me know. Send it in at tradermerlin@gmail.com or put it down below any of the YouTube videos. Thank you guys so much. Have a fantastic remainder of your evening. I will see you mañana. Take care.